Questions. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, am I really special? Do I really matter? Is there something divine about my existence? If yes, questions. Then today God didn't bring you here by accident. He brought you here by appointment. Because today I want to remind every woman in this room of something powerful. You are not ordinary. Questions. You are designed with intention. You are shaped with purpose. And you are protected by grace. Let me tell you a small story. A little girl once asked her mother, Mom, questions. Why do I cry so easily? The mother smiled and said, because God made your heart soft enough to feel, strong enough to survive. Questions and brave enough to love. That's when I realized sensitivity is not weakness. It is a sign of divine design. So today, let me share with you 5 signs that you are a woman blessed by God. Questions. You don't just see pain, you feel it. When someone cries, something inside you moves. When someone is happy, your soul smiles. The world says, be tough, don't feel too much. But God says, questions. I trusted you with a heart that can heal. Let me tell you something beautiful. God never gives a soft heart to a weak person. Questions. He gives it to the strongest souls, because only strong souls can carry deep emotions without breaking. If you've ever been told, questions, you're too emotional, you care too much, you love too deeply, smile. Because that's not your flaw, that's your blessing. Let me ask you honestly, questions. How many times did life knock you down? How many nights did you cry in silence? How many moments did you feel like giving up? Yet here you are, still standing, still smiling, still believing. Questions. That's not coincidence, that's grace. A blessed woman is not one who never falls. A blessed woman is one who falls, prays, wipes her tears, and rises with wisdom in her eyes. Remember this line. Questions. God doesn't remove storms from a woman's life. He gives her wings to fly through them. In a world full of shouting, proving, and competing, you choose calm. Questions. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. Your presence itself speaks. Let me tell you something powerful. A woman blessed by God doesn't walk into a room to impress. Questions. She walks in to bring peace. Your silence is not emptiness, it's depth. Your calm is not weakness, it's control. And trust me, the world is loud, but heaven always speaks in a whisper. Questions. You don't tear women down, you build them up. When another woman shines, you don't feel threatened, you feel inspired. That's rare, that's divine, because ego competes, but grace celebrates. Questions. Let me say this slowly. A woman blessed by God doesn't dim another woman's light. She helps it shine brighter. And when God sees that you protect others' dignity, He protects your destiny. Questions. This one is powerful. You waited, you believed, and sometimes nothing happened. No sign, no answer, no maiden vocal. Yet you didn't move away. You said, even if I don't understand you. Questions. God, I still trust you. That is not normal faith. That is divine faith. Because anyone can believe when things go right, but only a blessed woman believes when things fall apart. Remember, questions. God's silence is not His absence. It's His way of working behind the scenes. Let me leave you with this truth. A woman blessed by God is not defined by her beauty, her status, her relationship, questions, or her success. She is defined by questions. Her heart, her faith, her resilience, her kindness, her connection to the divine. So the next time life makes you question your worth, the next time someone makes you feel small, the next time you doubt your journey, put your hand on your heart and say, questions. I am not ordinary. I am chosen. I am guided. I am blessed. Because when God created you, He didn't just create a woman. He created a miracle with a mission. Thank you. Questions. Let me begin by telling you something the world often gets wrong about you. The world says that if you feel too much, you are weak. If you cry easily, you are fragile. If you care deeply, questions, you will get hurt. But what the world doesn't understand is this: your heart was not designed by the world. Your heart was designed by God. Think about your daily life for a moment. Questions. Think about how you notice things that others walk past without even seeing. The tired look in someone's eyes. The silence in a friend's voice. Questions. The heaviness in a room when something feels off. You don't need words to understand pain. You feel it. It reaches you before logic does. That is not an accident. That is a gift. Questions. Have you ever noticed how you are the one people come to when they are hurting? They don't always say, "I need help." They just sit near you. They call you for no reason. Questions. They message you late at night. And somehow, without them explaining everything, you already know what they are going through. That is because your heart is not just beating for you. Questions. It is tuned to others. Let me share a simple example. Imagine you are in a busy place, a classroom, an office, a family gathering. Everyone is talking, laughing, scrolling on their phones. Questions. Living in their own world. But you notice the one person sitting quietly in the corner. You notice the smile that doesn't reach their eyes. You notice the pause before they answer. Questions. "I'm fine." And something inside you says, "They are not fine." So you walk over. You ask a simple question. And suddenly their walls break down. Tears come out. Stories come out. Questions. Pain comes out. And you didn't even plan to be a healer. You just showed up as yourself. That's what a deep heart does. It creates safe spaces without even trying. Questions. Now let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you been told, "Don't be so emotional. You think too much. You care too much"? Questions. And how many times did you go home and wonder, "Why am I like this?" But what if I told you that God didn't make a mistake with you? Questions. What if I told you that He gave you a heart like this because the world is full of people who feel nothing, and He needed someone who feels everything? Think about the way you love. Questions. You don't love halfway. You don't care a little. When you commit with your whole soul. When you support someone, you don't just clap for their success. You pray for it. Questions. When someone is in pain, you don't just say, "It will be okay." You sit with them in their darkness. That kind of love is not common. That kind of love is divine. Questions. Let me give you a daily life moment you might recognize. You are walking down the street and you see someone struggling. Maybe an old woman carrying heavy bags. Maybe a child who looks lost. Questions. Maybe a stranger who just looks defeated by life. Most people walk past, not because they are bad people, but because they are busy. But you slow down, you look back, you feel something in your chest. Questions. And even if you don't know why, you stop, you help, you ask, you care. And later you might think it was nothing. But for that person, it was everything. Questions. That's what a heart that feels deeply does. It turns small moments into miracles. Let me tell you another truth. A deep heart also feels deep pain. You don't just get hurt, you feel shattered. Questions. You don't just get disappointed, you feel it in your bones. You don't just lose people, you carry their absence with you. And yes, that is heavy, that is hard, that is exhausting. Questions. But here is the beautiful part. Only a heart that can feel that much pain can also feel that much joy, that much love, that much connection. God could have made you numb. Questions. He could have made you detached. He could have made you cold. But He didn't. He trusted you with emotional depth. He trusted you with compassion. Questions. He trusted you with the ability to touch in ways you will never fully realize. Sometimes you might wish you were different. You might wish you didn't care so much. Questions. You might wish you could just let things go like others do. But imagine a world without people like you. A world where no one notices tears. A world where no one listens deeply. Questions. A world where no one feels beyond themselves. That world would be efficient, maybe successful, but it would be empty. Your heart brings color to a gray world. Questions. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by how deeply you feel, don't curse it. Honor it. Thank God for it. Because your heart is not a burden. It is a blessing wrapped in sensitivity. Questions. You are not too much. You are exactly what this world needs more of. And remember this. God gives the softest hearts to the strongest souls. Questions. Because only the strongest can carry that much love without giving up on the world. So walk proudly with your deep heart. Let it feel. Let care. Let it love. Because through you, questions, God is quietly healing places you will never even see. Questions. Let me tell you something most people will never see when they look at you. They see your smile. They see your strength. Questions. They see how you handle life. What they don't see are the silent battles you fought when no one was watching. The nights when your pillow knew your tears better than any person. Questions. The moments when your heart felt so heavy that even breathing felt like work. And yet here you are, still standing, still showing up, still trying. That alone tells a powerful story about you. Questions. Think about your daily life. Think about how many times something went wrong and you still had to wake up the next morning, get dressed, and face the world like everything was fine. Questions. Maybe you had an argument with someone you loved. Maybe you failed at something you worked so hard for. Maybe you lost someone or something that meant everything to you. And yet the alarm rang. Questions. The sun came up. Life didn't pause for your pain. But you didn't stop either. That's not normal strength. That's resilience born from grace. Questions. Let me give you a simple example you might recognize. Imagine breaking a glass. Once it's broken, you can't just put it back the way it was. The cracks remain. The shape changes. Questions. But have you ever seen a plant grow through a crack in concrete? The concrete is hard, heavy, unforgiving. And yet, something soft, something alive, questions, something fragile looking finds a way to rise through it. That's you may have poured concrete over your dreams, your plans, your heart, but somehow you still found a way to grow. Questions. There are moments when you probably felt like saying, I can't do this anymore. Maybe it was after being betrayed. Maybe it was after being misunderstood. Questions. Maybe it was after giving your best and still being told it wasn't enough. You reached a point where you felt empty. Not sad, not angry, just empty. And that emptiness is scary. Questions. Because it feels like there's nothing left to give. But look at what you did. You rested. You cried. You questioned. You prayed. And slowly, without announcing it to the world, questions, you got back up. Let me tell you something beautiful about that. Rising doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes rising looks like brushing your hair when you don't feel like it. Questions. Sometimes it looks like replying to a message when you want to disappear. Sometimes it looks like stepping outside your room when you would rather hide from the world. Questions. Those small actions are not small at all. They are proof that something inside you refuses to give up. Think about how many versions of yourself you have already survived. Questions. The younger you who didn't know how strong she was going to become. The broken you who thought, this is the end of me. The healing you who slowly learned to trust again, smile again. Questions. Hope again. You didn't just move forward in life. You evolved through pain. Let me share a daily life moment. You walk into a room where people don't know your story. Questions. They don't know what you lost. They don't know what you endured. They don't know what almost broke you. They just see you laughing, talking, being normal. And that's the miracle. Questions. You carry storms inside you and still bring sunshine to others. That's a sign of a soul that has been touched by something greater than circumstances. You see, being broken changes you. Questions. But a blessed woman doesn't let brokenness make her bitter. She lets it make her wiser. She becomes softer with people's struggles because she knows how heavy life can be. Questions. She becomes more patient because she knows healing takes time. She becomes more grateful because she knows how quickly things can be taken away. And the most powerful part, questions. You don't rise the same way you fell. You rise differently, stronger, calmer, more aware of what truly matters. There are days when you still feel the cracks, certain songs, certain places, questions, certain memories. They hit you when you least expect it. And for a moment, you go quiet. But then you breathe. You remind yourself, I've been here before. Questions. And I survived. That memory becomes your strength. Let me say something that might stay with you. God doesn't always remove the pain from your path. Sometimes, questions. He leaves it there so you can see how far you've come. Every scar you carry is not a sign of weakness. It's a signature of survival. Look at the way you handle problems now compared to before. Questions. Things that once shattered you now just shake you. Things that once destroyed your peace now only disturb it for a moment. That's growth. That's healing. That's rising. Questions. And maybe the most inspiring part of all, you don't just rise for yourself. You rise so others can look at you and think, if she made it through that, questions, maybe I can make it through this. Your life becomes a quiet message to the world. Pain is not the end of your story. So honor your journey. Questions. Honor the nights you thought you wouldn't make it. Honor the mornings you woke up anyway. Honor the strength you didn't even know you had until life forced you to find it. Questions. Because every time you rise after being broken, you don't just stand back up. You become proof that grace is real, healing is possible. Questions. And the human spirit, especially yours, is far stronger than any storm it faces. Questions. Let me start with something you see every single day. The world is loud. Not just with sounds, but with opinions, expectations, comparisons, and constant pressure to prove something. Everywhere you go, questions. Someone is telling you who to be, how to look, what to achieve, and how fast to get there. Social media scrolls, messages pop up, people talk, deadlines chase you. Questions. It feels like life is a never-ending race where everyone is running and shouting at the same time. And in the middle of all that noise, there is something rare about you. You don't add to the chaos. Questions, you soften it. Think about how people feel when they are around you. Conversations slow down. Breathing becomes easier. The tension in the room seems to drop just a little. Questions. It's not because you have all the answers. It's because you have a presence that listens instead of reacts, understands instead of judges, and observes instead of attacks. Questions. Let me give you a simple daily life moment. Imagine a group conversation where everyone is talking over each other. Opinions clash. Voices get louder. Energy becomes sharp. Questions. Most people feel the need to jump in to defend, to prove they are right. But you pause, you listen, you wait. And when you finally speak, your words don't fuel the fire. They calm it. Suddenly, questions. People stop talking just to listen to you. That is not a communication skill. That is a calm soul speaking through you. You see, carrying peace doesn't mean you don't feel anger, sadness, questions, or frustration. It means you don't let those emotions control your actions. You feel deeply, but you respond gently. And in a world where reactions are instant and often harsh, questions, your gentleness becomes a quiet strength. Let me tell you something powerful. Silence from you is not emptiness. It is thoughtfulness. When you don't speak immediately, questions, it's not because you have nothing to say. It's because you are choosing words that won't hurt, won't damage, and won't create regret later. Questions. Think about how many times you've walked away from an argument not because you were wrong, but because you valued peace more than being right. That choice is not weakness. That is wisdom. Questions. There's a moment many people experience. Someone says something unfair, something hurtful, something that stings. Your heart reacts immediately. You feel the heat in your chest. Questions. The words rise to your lips, you could easily strike back, and for a second you almost do, but then you stop, you breathe, you choose calm, you choose dignity, you choose peace. Questions. That moment is powerful, because in that moment you don't just control the situation, you control yourself. Let me share another everyday scene. Questions. You walk into a stressful environment, maybe your workplace, your home, or a room full of people carrying their own problems. The air feels heavy, faces look tired, conversations sound sharp. Questions. And without making a big effort, you greet people warmly. You ask how they are. You listen when they answer. Slowly, the energy shifts. People relax. Smiles appear. The room feels lighter. Questions. You might think, I didn't do anything special, but you did. You brought peace where there was tension. That is a rare gift. Carrying peace also means you don't chase attention. Questions. You don't need to be the center of every room. You are comfortable standing in the background, observing, understanding, being present. And when you do step forward, it's not to be seen. Questions. It's to serve, to help, to support. Let me say this gently. The loudest people are not always the strongest. Often the strongest ones are the calmest. Questions. Because it takes strength to remain gentle in a harsh world. It takes courage to stay kind in a cruel moment. It takes deep confidence to not need constant validation. Questions. Think about how you handle success. When something goes right in your life, you don't shout it from the rooftops. You smile quietly. You stay grounded. You stay grateful. Questions. You know that today's high can become tomorrow's lesson. So you walk with humility, not arrogance. And think about how you handle failure. You don't blame everyone. You don't create drama. Questions. You go inward. You reflect. You learn. You grow. That is peace in action. Let me tell you something beautiful about your presence. People often feel safe around you. Safe to be themselves. Questions. Safe to be imperfect. Safe to be honest. They tell you things they don't tell others. They share fears, dreams, and doubts. Not because you push them to questions, but because your calm makes them feel understood. That's not something you can learn from a book. That comes from a soul that is anchored, not shaken by every wave. And here is the truth. Questions. Carrying peace doesn't mean your life is perfect. It means you have learned how to stay steady even when life is not. You have learned how to breathe through storms. Questions. How to trust in moments of uncertainty. How to let go of what you can't control. So the next time you feel unnoticed because you are not loud, remember this. Rivers don't make noise. Questions. But they carve mountains. The sun doesn't shout, but it changes the world. Your calm, your patience, your quiet strength. These are not small things. Questions. They are powerful forces moving gently through everyday moments, leaving behind comfort, clarity, and hope. You don't just walk through life. You soften it for everyone who walks with you. Questions. Let me begin with something you see almost everywhere today. The world often teaches us to compare. Who is doing better? Who looks better? Who is ahead? Who is behind? Questions. It quietly turns life into a race where everyone is watching everyone else, measuring their own worth against someone else's success. And in that kind of world, questions, choosing to lift others instead of competing with them is not just rare, it is powerful. Think about your daily life. Questions. Think about the moments when someone around you achieves something, a promotion at work, good results in school, a new opportunity, a personal victory. For many people, questions, the first feeling is comparison. Why not me? Am I falling behind? What does this say about my life? But for you, something different happens. You feel happy for them. You questions. You encourage. You genuinely smile. Not because you don't have your own dreams, but because you don't see someone else's success as your failure. Questions. That mindset doesn't come from confidence alone. It comes from grace. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people standing in a garden. One sees another flower bloom and feels jealous, questions, thinking, why isn't mine blooming yet? The other sees the same flower and thinks, how beautiful. This means the season of blooming is here. You are the second kind of person, questions. You see someone else's growth as proof that growth is possible, not as a threat to your own journey. Think about the way you speak about others when they are not in the room, questions. That's where true character shows. You don't tear people down to make yourself feel taller. You don't spread negativity to feel important. You protect reputations. You defend dignity, questions. You choose words that heal instead of words that harm. That choice may seem small, but it carries great weight. Because every time you choose kindness over criticism, questions, you create a world that feels a little safer for everyone in it. Let me share a daily life moment you might recognize. A friend comes to you excited about something they achieve, questions. Maybe it's something you've been trying for yourself. Maybe it's something you secretly wish you had. And for just a second, a tiny voice inside you might whisper comparison. That's human, questions. But then you silence it. You look at your friend. You celebrate them. You tell them how proud you are. You ask them to share their story. And in that moment, you don't lose anything. Questions. You gain something. You gain connection. You gain respect. You gain a heart that feels light instead of heavy. You see, competition creates distance. Celebration creates bonds. Questions. Think about the way you support other women. You don't see them as rivals. You see them as companions on a journey. When they doubt themselves, you remind them of their strength. Questions. When they feel insecure, you point out their beauty. When they feel lost, you help them find direction. You become the voice you wish you had heard on your hardest days. Questions. And here's something beautiful about that. The encouragement you give to others often comes from the pain you once felt yourself. You know what it feels like to be unseen, unappreciated, questions, or underestimated. So you make sure no one around you feels that way if you can help it. Let me tell you something powerful. Lifting others doesn't mean you forget about yourself. Questions. It means you trust that your path doesn't need to be protected by pushing others down. You trust that what is meant for you cannot be taken by someone else's success. Questions. Think about a candle in a dark room. When you use your candle to light another one, does your own flame become smaller? No, the room just becomes brighter. That's what happens when you lift others. Questions. You don't lose your light, you multiply it. There are moments when people around you might not understand you. They might think kindness is weakness. Questions. They might think you are too nice or too soft. But what they don't see is the strength it takes to stay kind in a competitive world. Questions. It takes courage to believe in abundance when the world keeps telling you there is not enough. Let me share another everyday scene. You see someone being criticized, judged, or excluded. Questions. It would be easy to stay silent, to blend in, to avoid standing out, but something inside you doesn't let you. You speak up, you sit next to them, you include them in the conversation. Questions. You remind them through small actions that they matter. Those moments may not go viral, they may not be applauded, but they change lives quietly. And here is the beautiful part. When you lift others' questions, you don't just help them rise. You also rise in ways you don't immediately notice. You build relationships based on trust. You create a reputation of kindness. Questions. You walk through life with a heart that feels full, not empty. Let me say this gently. The world has enough people trying to be on top. It needs more people willing to stand beside others and say, questions. We can grow together. So the next time you see someone shining, don't step back into the shadows. Step closer. Let their light inspire you, not intimidate you. Questions. Let their success remind you that your time will come too, in its own way, in its own moment. Because A woman who lifts others is not just walking her own path. Questions. She is building a bridge for others to walk on as well. And in the end, that kind of legacy shines far brighter than any competition ever could. Questions. Let me begin with a moment everyone knows but few talk about. The moment when you pray and nothing seems to happen. You ask, you hope, you wait. Days pass, weeks, sometimes even years pass. Questions, and all you hear is silence. No clear sign, no sudden change, no dramatic miracle, just quiet. And in that quiet, something inside you is tested. Think about your daily life. Questions. Think about the times you stood at a crossroads unsure which way to go. You asked God for clarity. You asked for direction. You asked for a sign. And instead of a loud answer, questions, you got a gentle stillness. The world kept moving. People around you kept living their lives. But you were standing there. Questions. Holding a question in your heart and an empty space where an answer should have been. And yet you didn't walk away. That is where your faith becomes something more than words. Questions. Let me share a simple example. Imagine planting a seed in the soil. You water it, you cover it, you protect it, and then you wait. Days go by and nothing appears on the surface. Questions. If you didn't know better, you might think nothing is happening. But under the soil, something is moving. Roots are forming. Life is preparing to rise. Your trust in God during silence is like that. Questions. Just because you can't see growth doesn't mean it isn't happening. Think about the mornings you woke up with a heavy heart, but still whispered, "Thank you." Questions. God, even when you didn't feel thankful. Think about the nights you went to sleep with unanswered questions, but still chose to believe that tomorrow could be better. Questions. Those small moments of quiet trust are powerful. They are not dramatic, they are not loud, but they are deep. Let me give you a daily life moment you might recognize. Questions. You're waiting for something to change, maybe a relationship, a job, a family situation, or a personal struggle. You've done what you can. You've tried your best. And now, questions, all that's left is waiting. People around you give advice. Some say, give up. Some say, force it. Some say, stop hoping. But inside you, there's a calm voice that says, questions, hold on. That voice is not stubbornness. It is faith. You see, trusting God in silence doesn't mean you don't feel doubt. It means you don't let doubt make your decisions. Questions. It means you move forward even when the path isn't fully lit. Like walking in the dark with just enough light to see the next step, not the whole journey. Questions. Think about how easy it is to trust when things are going well, when doors are opening, when plans are working, when life feels smooth. Anyone can say, God is good in those moments. Questions. But when doors close, when plans fall apart, when life feels unfair, and you still say, I believe, that's a different kind of strength. Let me tell you something gentle but powerful. Questions. Silence from God is not rejection. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes what you are asking for is on the way, but you are being shaped to handle it first. Questions. Like a cup being made bigger so it can hold more water, your heart is being expanded so it can carry what is coming. Questions. Think about how many times you look back at your life and realize that what you once begged for, you are now grateful you didn't get. At the time, the silence felt painful. It felt confusing. Questions. It felt like being ignored. But later you see the bigger picture. You see protection where you once saw delay. You see guidance where you once saw absence. Questions. There's a quiet beauty in the way you keep going even when you don't understand. You still show up for your responsibilities. You still care for people. You still try to be kind. Questions. You still choose hope in small ways. That's not just patience. That's trust woven into everyday actions. Let me share another moment you might recognize. You're sitting alone, maybe in your room. Questions. Maybe on a bus, maybe walking down a street. Your mind is full of questions. Why is this happening? What did I do wrong? Where is this all leading? And for a moment, you just breathe questions. You let the questions be there. You don't fight them. You don't run from them. You simply place them in God's hands, even if you don't know how He will hold them. Questions. That act, letting go without knowing what comes next, is one of the bravest things a person can do. You see, trusting God in silence changes you. It makes you calmer in uncertainty. Questions. It makes you softer with others' struggles. It makes you less desperate for control and more open to guidance. You start to understand that not everything needs an immediate answer. Questions. Some things need time to unfold. And here is the beautiful part. Your quiet faith becomes a light for others. People watch how you handle waiting, how you handle disappointment, questions, how you handle unanswered prayers, and they find comfort in your calm. They find strength in your steadiness. Without preaching, without explaining questions, you show them what it looks like to believe even when it's hard. So the next time life feels silent, don't assume you are alone. Sometimes the deepest work happens in the quietest moments. Questions. Sometimes God speaks not through noise, but through peace that slowly settles in your heart. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing. Because even in the silence, your journey is being guided. Questions. Your story is being written, and your faith is becoming something strong enough to carry you through whatever comes next.